Hello and welcome to True Hope Cast, the official podcast of True Hope Canada, where we take a deep dive into mental health's many physiological and psychological aspects. This is the show for you if you're looking for motivation, inspiration, knowledge and solutions, and that's what we are all about here at True Hope Canada. And True Hope Canada is a mind and body-based supplement company dedicated first and foremost to promoting brain and body health through non-invasive nutritional means. For more information about us, please visit truehopecanada.com. Today, I welcome Chloe Jimenez-Peters to the podcast. Now, Chloe is a transformational hypnotherapist and trauma-informed coach. She works with women worldwide to rapidly identify and transform the subconscious blueprint of PMDD and perimenopause symptoms so that people can expand into their full potential. Today on the show, we're going to be discussing freedom from depression, anxiety, premenstrual, and other mood disorders. Enjoy the show. Okay, hi Chloe, welcome to True Hope Cast. Thank you so much for being with me, for being with us today. How are you? What is going well?
I'm really well. Thank you for having me, Simon. Such a pleasure.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we're going to be discussing freedom from depression, anxiety, premenstrual, and other mood disorders today. We're going to get into a bunch of different things. But before we do that, would you mind just sharing a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do?
Sure. So I'm Chloe Jimenez-Peters. I'm a rapid transformational hypnotherapist and trauma-informed coach. I'm also a narcissistic abuse specialist. And I help people transform the subconscious root cause of their hormonal symptoms and their mental health issues so that they can live a purposeful life of inner peace and freedom and expanded potential.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing. One thing that stood up for me there was living a purposeful life. Do you feel like a lot of people don't have a particular purpose at the moment, or is it something that people fall off their purpose? Because I think it's a very important thing that people have that, but like actually figuring out what that might be could be quite tricky for a lot of people.
Well, it is because of the childhood programs we pick up, the beliefs about ourselves that what we want doesn't matter, that we don't matter. And so with a blueprint like that, it's increasingly more difficult to feel into what you really want to be doing and what you're here for.
Tell us a little bit more about that, about these childhood programs that, don't really, let's say, procure curiosity, creativity, imagination, therefore, killing a lot of dreams kind of early on. Would you mind telling us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So we're being programmed from being in the womb. And as humans, our priority is to belong to our tribe. And, because as children, we couldn't survive without the caregiver. So feeling rejected by the caregiver feels like death to a child. And then, in this moment of cognitive dissonance, this is where the child will pick up beliefs about themselves. They lay down these beliefs like, I'm not enough. There's something innately wrong with me. I'm different. I don't belong. And we lay down these beliefs. It's like an adaptation. It is an adaptation. As intelligent beings, we're adapting to our environment in order to survive. And it's amazing when you actually go to the root cause of a symptom or depression, for example. Depression, I'm really passionate about because I was diagnosed with it when I was 17 years old. I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue at 14 and then clinical depression at 17, and put on antidepressants and told that I had a chemical imbalance, that there was something wrong with me. And of course, from the work that I now do, well, the beliefs on the subconscious, at the subconscious root of depression, it's like the ultimate rejection of self. It's I'm wrong, I'm bad, there's something wrong with me. It's a misperception of a child that stays with us. And then this is the lens through which we see ourselves and we see the world. And the perception that we then have of ourselves is activating the nervous system. And we have the fight or flight. This is where we find anxiety and rage. And when we reach the threshold of fight or flight, our nervous system comes to protect us further by shutting us down and putting us in freeze. But our nervous system is working for us according to this blueprint that we have on our subconscious mind from our formative years. And so it's only doing the job it can only do according to the beliefs that you have. And so depression is a freeze response. So is chronic fatigue. So is dissociation. It's our nervous system it's the ultimate survival mode.
Very interesting. Thanks for that. So many things to pick up on there. With an individual, are you talking about you're able to actually work with an adult who's gone through a lot of these childhood unhelpful conditioning programs to help break through that? Is that something that is possible?
That's what I specialize in. Yeah. So, we talk about trauma and we categorize it into small t and big T. I don't really like to categorize trauma in that way, because what differs between us all is our sensitivity. And, like 1 in 4, 1 in 5 of us is a highly sensitive being. And this is the genetic differentiation that's been tested across over 100 species, right? There's many studies on this, that gene for sensitivity. So if you are a highly sensitive person, you process things deeply in your nervous system. You're more susceptible to these limiting beliefs, to these mutations in the belief system that then activate the nervous system. You're more susceptible then to depression and anxiety and premenstrual mood disorders. But you see, the premenstrual thing, it's really alarming for me, because when a woman goes to the doctor with premenstrual dysphoric disorder, right, which is like PMS on steroids, I feel like they've been hijacked for a week, 2 weeks of the month. And this happens when the hormone shift occurs, when they move into the luteal phase, and the hormone acts like a truth serum. So, we're cyclical beings. We have a spring, summer, autumn, winter of our cycle. And then in the autumn, we go into this introspective mode, almost assessing our lives, and we come very close and personal and have this access to the subconscious imprints, these beliefs that we lay down. And so naturally the nervous system is highly activated because of the perception, because of this lens that we're seeing life through. And when people go to the doctor with this, the doctor will then give them birth control or offer them SSRIs. And then the last option would be a full hysterectomy, just take away the hormones. Yeah. But the hormones are like this innate wisdom of, for women, that is showing us what we need to transform in order to, transform the imprints that are holding us back, keeping us small and creating these symptoms. And actually, yes, we want freedom from the symptoms. That's what's getting louder and louder and louder. But what ends up happening, the side effect of the treatment when we do it is, amazing relationships. Then your relationships transform, your parenting then transforms. You end up realizing what you love doing, your sole purpose. I've worked with doctors and nurses who've ended up training in the same modality as me because they believe in it so much. They're like, wow, now I can actually help people at the root cause rather than attenuating symptoms. We can actually go to the root cause. And it is, it's mind, body, and spirit. And it does feel increasingly more like a calling to heal and expanding consciousness. The more I do this, the more I'm realizing this, which is really interesting.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think root cause is such a huge thing that so many amazing guests on our show come in and talk about from different angles. But I think that all of them would agree on the fact that, conventional medicine, the conventional way of thinking in regards to, a list of symptoms and then basically going through a program and picking a particular drug that's associated with those symptoms and then getting that individual on that, rather than being able to spend, let's say, an hour, 2 hours with an individual to kind of really learn kind of deep down what's kind of going on for an individual, and being able to actually go back to somebody's childhood. How were they brought into the world? How, what was going on in the family when you were in the womb? Like pretty intense questions that, can bring a lot of understanding to how an individual functions on a neurological level, I guess on an immunological level as well. So yeah, it's fascinating that you're able to work with that. And I totally understand and believe that many conventional doctors who went through a lot of training, who have worked with thousands and thousands of patients, looking to actually heal them and help them and progress them to a place where they don't need a doctor, they don't need pharmaceuticals. But I think after doing a lifetime of that work and realizing that you're probably not actually getting people to a point where they want to be, to, you know, have this life in which brings them awe, and they're pain free and they feel strong and passionate, and they've got these wonderful things that they want to do. Because a lot of people, I feel, and I've experienced as well, they end up becoming their disorder, or their diagnosis, I should say, and it becomes a huge part of their personality, and everything evolves around that, and it's a huge part of people's story. And yeah, it's challenging when our primary medical system doesn't really get what we've just spoken about for the last, 10 minutes in the opening of it. But I'd love to, if you would want to expand a little bit on some of those doctors that have been able to recognize that what your work is doing, and that, our nervous system, our immune system, our hormonal system, especially for a female, is very, very complex and complicated. That, it's not just a SSRI deficiency, which is the problem here. It's a lot more important than that. And it deserves to be listened to, rather than a 5-10 minute medical consultation.
Absolutely. And that serotonin model, it was never proven. It is a theory. And it's not really, it's not the doctor's fault. It's what, I did 11 years of university. I went to medical school, then dental school. We're not taught this stuff. It's crazy that we're not taught about the subconscious mind, and how the subconscious mind affects the nervous system, and how that then affects your physiology, because this is actually root cause medicine. It's crazy. It's not their fault. But I come across a lot of doctors in my work because they're, just by mere nature of them being the carers of society, the empaths of society, they're more susceptible to picking up these limiting beliefs, these trauma imprints in childhood, and then they come to me for help to transform the PMDD or the depression. And then they love it so much that they then go on to study it, because they want to help their patients at the root cause, because they know that they're going to keep seeing them and have to keep prescribing more and more drugs.
Yeah, and it must be very challenging when you have a patient coming in for, let's say, 10 years with the same condition, and you're just bouncing from drug to drug. We had Michelle Rettinger on the show a couple of weeks ago, and she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and she was working with her doctor for, I think, 10 years. And he finally came to the conclusion that what they were doing with just cocktails of pharmaceuticals and adding from other drugs to counteract the side effects from these other ones, he was just realized that this clearly isn't working. And he obviously made an oath at the beginning of his practice to help people and do no harm. And he did a little bit more research in regards to using alternative methods. He ended up recommending that using micronutrients and good quality supplementation to begin the process of actually healing the brain properly, rather than flooding the body with these very foreign chemicals that the body doesn't really know what to do with. It stores them up in fat, and it can be debilitating for decades. And yeah, just as you're talking there about those practitioners, those doctors, who I believe are the majority of them, really, really want to support and help people. But yeah, they are indoctrinated into an ideology that there's only one pathway. And it can be very, very challenging for a patient to be able to do anything else other with their health. Because yeah, like we play doctors and nurses when we're kids. That's what happens when we get sick. And then once we get into the real world, we get sick and we go to the doctor and we get this prescription on this piece of paper and we get this pill, and that's going to heal us, right? And I think a lot of people actually still believe that that's kind of like the way it goes, and that's the only option. I guess in many countries it's very challenging to even fund an alternative option, and you're kind of paying for a second tier of healthcare when you're looking to maybe go see a hypnotherapist or perhaps a chiropractor or a nutritionist or these other amazing practitioners that we have available to us. It's not, I can't remember playing TCM doctor and acupuncturist when I was a kid, but maybe I should start playing that with my kids.
I know, right? We've got to be careful what we're programming into our children. Like you said, oh, go to the doctor, they're going to give you a medicine and this is going to fix you. I'm very careful about that with my children, because we were programmed that way. And there is still this, people put doctors on pedestals and, you've got to go to the doctor, and what the doctor says goes, like in the days where airline pilots were the gods of the sky. It's not like that anymore. But the doctors still kind of have that. I heard that episode with Michelle, and she was very fortunate to find a doctor that really was able to explore the root cause and help her.
And just being able to put his ego aside and to actually have a human connection with Michelle, because they developed a relationship. She was obviously clearly way more than just a patient at that point. And it's just remarkable that he was able to take a look at the research that we've done with our products here and was able to help facilitate that. And once her doctor had kind of given her the permission or the green light to do something like that, it gave her the permission to try something else, I think, which again has its own challenge as a doctor. That kind of that white lab coat, that doctor pedestal thing you're talking about. It's a big challenge for a lot of people to think outside of that very narrow box. But it's not that long ago where we had medicine men, medicine women be part of our community, part of our tribe. That's who you would go to. At one person in the household, where there would usually be 3, maybe even 4 generations of individual, that'd be one person you go to for home remedies that was likely growing in the garden. And then that would be, that would be part of the teachings, that'd be part of the schooling within the community in the home. And it's not that long ago that we were all doing that, but it just seemed to just be absolutely washed away in something that you might capture in a movie or a TV show that was based 200 years ago. That's the only time you might actually see these things anymore. And it's really, really sad when you think about it.
Yeah, I think it's coming back, isn't it? I think people are waking up. They're realizing that they have the wisdom within them to heal. And, the diet is just the first thing that you have to look at, because that's trauma to the body. You're wounding the body. Trauma is the Greek word for wound. You're wounding the body. We're devolving with our diet, even with the way we breathe as a species, we're devolving. So those are the basic things that, you've got to look at, and then get curious. Well, I've acquired 95% of my beliefs before I was 7 years old. Wow, that's before I even had a rational, conscious, critical mind formed to filter anything out. I absorbed beliefs about myself and about the world that I live in that aren't even mine. We're updating the software on our computers and our phones, numerous times a year, but we don't think to update the software that we are running on. And it's like, come on, guys, we only live once. Life is short. Life is going really fast, much faster and faster all the time. And we want more from life. Well, if you want more from life, and we all have this burning desire to expand and evolve, then you've got to change the blueprint, because everything you're experiencing is a manifestation of the blueprint that you carry from childhood.
Beautiful. Well said. I'd like to back things up a little bit, and I'd like to know a little bit more what a transformational hypnotherapist is, because we've had hypnotherapists on the show before, which has been amazing and eye-opening. And for some reason, it's all over my TikTok as well. So it's clearly something that's very, very popular. There's a lot of people out there doing it, but there's a traditional idea. When I think hypnotists, I think of cruise ships, and I think of people, being told to bark like dogs. But from what I understand now, it's very, very different from that. But maybe you can tell us a little bit more what traditional transformational hypnotherapy is.
Yeah, and that's a bit of a problem for me, because we grew up with stage hypnotists making us cluck like chickens and bark like a dog. So people think, oh, I'm going to be out of control. And it's, you're not actually. You're having this inward focus. You're actually more in control, and you're able to just relax the conscious mind and access the subconscious mind. So, you're in and out of hypnosis every day. It's, two of your brain states. They're just slower frequencies. And it just means that you are more suggestible and that you can access memories that you might not be able to with your conscious mind. Often people do, because we regress back at the beginning of the session. We regress back. We ask the subconscious mind to show us scenes, memories, the earliest memories, all to do with this feeling, the absolute root cause and reason. And then we do this 3 or 4 times. And in each of those scenes, then I extract the beliefs of the child, because actually all that matters is the feeling of the child in these scenes. And so then we get a very clear set of beliefs, and there'll be the same beliefs coming up in each scene, just to really show you your subconscious mind knows what the issue is here. And then we do a load of inner child work, and we use another toolkit of reframing tools. We do parts therapy in there, because the depression is a part, the anxiety is a part, the anger is a part. It's not you, it's a protector part. It's doing a job for you, because you as a child at some point have concluded that this is going to protect you, or your nervous system has unconsciously decided that this is protecting you. And so we upgrade the child and we do the parts work. And so transformational hypnotherapy, how I would describe it, is root cause resolution. You're going back to the absolute root cause, the imprint on your nervous system or your subconscious mind. And the really important bit about it is the reframing. Well, those are beliefs of a helpless, dependent child. That could never be true. That I'm bad because I cleaned the windows for my mum with kitchen roll after she just had them professionally cleaned, and she came in and shouted at me, I'm bad and I'm wrong and there's something seriously wrong with me. That could never be true. And so we do this whole upgrade, and they see very clearly that was a misperception. That could never happen again. And so then it's a 2-hour session. So but first you've got to uproot these malignant beliefs. You've got to pinpoint them, and you've got to uproot them and reframe the truth about you, because they're lies. And then we do at the end of the session, we do this transformation, which is 15 minutes of me giving you the new opposite empowering beliefs in this hypnotic state. And then you go away with this recording of those beliefs with binaural beats, and you will listen to that every day for 21 days when you go to bed, to really cement those new neural pathways. Because the mind learns in 2 ways, by repetition and via hypnosis. So we come at it from both angles.
Can you tell me a little bit more about these binaural beats and what they do?
Yeah, so they just help you go into the slower brain frequency. So we just put that on as the background music while you're listening to the new empowering truths about you.
Amazing. And what do you see in regards to progress or recovery within people? Is there a typical type of individual that comes in with, let's say, debilitating anxiety or depression, and then you're working with them? You have this, is this 2-hour session like this initial session that you would record?
So my program is 8 weeks long, and in those 8 weeks there are 2 rapid transformational hypnotherapy sessions, because they need to be 3 or 4 weeks apart in order to integrate each session. So we start off with an hour's coaching call, and then the next day or 2 days later we go into the first transformational hypnotherapy session. I tend to start with a freeze response symptom, because I first want to get them out of freeze response. And so with depression, after a day, they'll wake up the next day after the RTT session, and they will already just feel like it's gone. It's just gone. The understanding is there. Understanding is power. They're just free. They're lighter. They wake up feeling full of self-love and just lighter, is what they say. And then, of course, they're cementing the new beliefs throughout those next 3 weeks. And then in those 3 weeks, we have another call and we talk about what's left, because you can't really know what you're going to work on for the second month, because that might have been cleared with the first session, because those beliefs will clear a load of stuff. What tends to be left is maybe a fight or flight response symptom like anger or anxiety. And so then for the last half of the program, we'll work on that. But at the same time, they're learning metacognitive psychology, learning to get in control of their thoughts, learning that they are not their thoughts and they actually have choice over them, because after 3 minutes of thinking about something, you start to have a physiological reaction in your body. Things start to change, stress responses come because the body's incredibly intelligent. It's adapting all the time to what it needs, what it doesn't need, down-regulating genes, up-regulating genes, more hormones interrupting this, that, and the other. It's, so the body is so intelligent. And we're just adapting all the time to our environment.
Beautifully said. Yeah, I think once we're able to, I think when people recognize a little bit of education, or when they actually experience a session like you're describing, once they're able to step outside of a constant sympathetic stress response, whether they think they're stressed or not, and they're able to actually step into that rest and digest stage, I feel like a lot of people are actually getting out of the way of the body, because it's constantly trying to heal us. It's constantly trying to make us feel amazing, in my opinion. But once we're able to actually step out of that stress response for a long period of time, we're actually allowing our body to clean up and allowing it to do all those amazing things that it should do. It's able to actually take the nutrients from our food, take the nutrients from our nutrition to get it to the places where it needs to go in order to heal, because it's almost impossible for us to digest our food correctly when all of our blood and resources are out to our limbs, that because we think that we're constantly trying to fight a bear, so exactly. Yeah, would you agree in regards to like a lot of your work, or some of your work, is helping people get out of their own way to allow their body to do its thing?
Absolutely, because you have all the innate wisdom. You've just adapted to, the situation. It's like, just look at a plant, the intelligence of a plant when it's lacking a nutrient and its leaves will go yellow in order to survive. Well, that's intelligence, and that's in a plant. And we have such incredible intelligence within us to heal. And our body wants us to heal. That's why it's ringing these alarm bells, giving you the symptoms, and then we've got to get curious, rather than handing our power away to a doctor who's going to give us a pharmaceutical that's going to cause more issues for us. We've got to get curious with the root cause and start resolving it, because like you said, we can't conceive when we're in a stress response, and I also work with the root cause of infertility, because you've programmed yourself. Some women have actually programmed themselves very early on. Oh God, my dad would kill me if I get pregnant. That's still there, running all those physiological processes that are actually then going to make it very difficult for them to conceive. And like you say, the nutrients and the blood can't go to the intestines or go to the sex organs when you're in the chronic stress response. And we've normalized this as a society. Actually, yeah. They want us to be more and more and more in these states, so they can control us, I believe. So
yeah, I'm right with you on that. And yeah, I've got so many examples of stories of people trying to get pregnant, and they're like so regimented about it, and 3-4 years they can't get pregnant, and then once they kind of not give up but chill out about it, and it's less stressful, like it happens like immediately. And it's just, yeah, you can't not look at that, and then realize what we are thinking, feeling, and doing is having a massive impact on our internal state, and how that's going to have a huge impact on kind of everything that we have going on in our lives. And just one more thing before we kind of move on here, just from what you were saying in regards to the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, we find so many people who have had chronic anxiety, chronic depression, PTSD, ADHD, all of these very, very common things, that these individuals have been so stressed out internally, their body is fighting constantly, that it's in a massive state of lack. It's in a massive state of deficiency. And that's on the level of minerals, on vitamins, antioxidants, all these vital things that we need to do so many different things for us. And then once they're able to actually take a product that can actually begin to deal with that deficiency, regardless of your stress state, people very quickly start to feel very different. And then they're able to step into a world where their depression or their anxiety isn't going to be there for the rest of their life, and they dread waking up every morning. And it's just, we just see some remarkable things happen with actual proper nutrition that gives people that foundation to go on ahead and start thinking about maybe going for a hike, going for a walk, doing some yoga, or reconnecting with their community. And that's just the beginning stages of kind of all healing processes, I think, is getting your body the nutrition it needs, reducing the amount of stress that you're experiencing, and certainly getting to the root cause of a lot of that subconscious childhood stuff that you were talking about as well, which is like so rampant in everybody, because we all try and parent the best possible way that we can, I think, anyway. And it's funny because there's always parent books that come out, and there's a new generation of parenting. There's a helicopter parenting, there's the war type parenting that my grandparents did to my parents, which I kind of got a little bit of as well. And then I'm trying to do my own thing, and it's like nobody's perfect, and I feel like most people are just trying to do their best. But we have to recognize, as parents, as adults, as carers, there's a huge responsibility in regards to like what we allow our children to experience is going to program them for the rest of their lives. And if we're not creating like a flexible, let's say, calm individual, then we're just creating crazy wild stress balls.
Yeah. And I always say the greatest gift you can give your kids is doing this work, right? Because we're all doing our best. Nobody wakes up and says, today I'm going to mess up my kid. But then, a lot of women that start this work with me, when they understand this inner child work, because they're doing it and they've reparented themselves, they then go, oh my God, my kids, I'm worried about my kids because I was raging, because I was this, because, and it's like, this is their journey too. And you can't, like, it is what it is. You're giving them the greatest gift you could ever give them now by transforming this, and you're going to pass that on to them now. And it's just, we're doing the best we can. I'm a single mom of 3 young kids. I'm doing the best I can. No, but we're not perfect. We're humans, and we all have limiting beliefs. It's part of the human phenomenon. All we can do is keep transforming them. And as women, our hormones will show us in the form of these symptoms every month. Here's what needs transforming. And we have all the wisdom within us, the innate wisdom to transform it. And just, we're here to evolve. Got to keep growing.
That's right. How old are your kids, and what are the more common ways in which you introduce this work to them?
My kids are 7, 8, and 9. Crazy.
Wild.
It's funny because they feed stuff back to me, and I'm like, ooh, they're like mini therapists, these kids. Sometimes I hear one of them will start coaching the other one, start saying, well, why don't you choose a different thing to think, something that will make you feel happier, because you don't need to think that.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
that's wonderful. Yeah, I'm sure they're teaching you so much in regards to how a 7, 8, 9-year-old brain thinks. And I guess you're obviously working with a lot of adults who a lot of their traumas would have happened when they're at those young ages. So that must be a wonderful insight.
Yeah, totally. And, I guess we're becoming the parents that we needed at the end of the day. Like, I healed my stuff. And actually, the reason I do what I do was through a huge epiphany that I had when I was left heartbroken because their father left me while I was pregnant with my third. He ran off with a girl from work, half his age, which is lovely. But I was heartbroken for months, clearly. And I just remember sitting on my green velvet sofa and looking at my 2 boys. They were 2 and 1, and I was pregnant. And these thoughts going through my head. And I was just thinking, what will become of my life now? Like, who's going to want me with 3 babies? What will I do? And in that moment, I could see this crossroads. I could see, like, you carry on thinking that, and they're going to be a victim of that way of thinking. They're going to pick up beliefs about themselves. They're going to feel like a burden to your happiness. So how about you choose to believe that amazing things are coming to you and that they're a great package, we're a great package. And I could see that it was just going to transform. It was two different trajectories, and I could see the effect on their belief system either way. And I was like, I was so low in myself, I couldn't do it for me, but I was like, I'm doing this for them. And I went down a rabbit hole of personal growth and really studying the laws of the universe and learning about the subconscious mind. And it was then that I saw an advert with Marissa Peer talking about rapid transformational therapy. And I was like, oh my God, this is what I should have always been doing. Like 11 years of university out the window. This is what I want. This is what I'm here for. This is what I should have always been doing. And so I did the training and I just jumped in with both feet. I was so passionate because it was like I'd actually found the tools that I needed to help people free them from pain. And I just, I love what I do. I really do. And it's given us such a great life.
Yeah, it's amazing that your kids were able to, really help you choose that different alternative direction. And yeah, Michelle spoke about how, she was planning on killing herself for many days, and it was her kids. And in regards to what her kids would turn out to be, or what she thought they would turn out to be without her as a mum. And that was what motivated her to kind of stay alive and stay with them. And yeah, once we can start thinking outside the box there and start thinking about our children, who they are and what they can be, it's really quite remarkable what we can achieve. And yeah, you said something awesome there in regards to where this thought might take you. And I think that's huge to think. Like, you could sit with a particular thought that you might not like and think, oh my God, what if I let this grow for 5 years or 10 years? How foul and gross and despicable is that thought going to be? And what's that going to lead me to becoming? And I think 9 times out of 10, you could probably actually even draw what that might look like, and it wouldn't look pretty. So yeah, I think that's a very interesting practice that I might steal that one, if you don't mind.
Well, it actually triggered my own childhood belief, actually, because I'd grown up with a very young mother who I would hear, or I had heard, or I'd interpreted, let's say, as a child, that I was I think I'd heard something like, who's going to want me with 2 children, as she was in her early 20s, like she was doing her best. But it was like, I really took that on as a sensitive child. Oh my goodness, if I wasn't here, then she'd be happy, So this thought that went through my head actually triggered my own childhood issues. And I was like, no, you're not doing the same thing to them. Like, you're going to be the cycle breaker. And that's what I'm all about, is inspiring women to become, and men to become the cycle breakers of their family. Because often when I work with the women that I work with for premenstrual stuff, the husbands come along and say, I want a bit of what she's had. Like, I want some too.
Do you think, just on that topic of like having children young, I've just got 3 people in my mind right now who I know that their mothers had them when they were like 19, 20, 21. And I feel like in some of the cases, there's a lot of blame on the parents in regards to how they are now as adults. When you work with adults who kind of have that issue, because obviously the power is with the individual who's experiencing those, whether they want to get through it or not. But like, because I think a blame is a very, it's an external thing. We're putting that energy out of us to actually something that's not technically there anymore because it's in the past. But like, how would you go about like allowing somebody to maybe understand that that's an internal thing that you have within yourself, and that you can actually go back and work with that inner child and heal it?
Yeah. And so I always say, it's not your fault what happened, but it is your responsibility, right? Because our parents, I was going to say our parents are doing their best, and we are all doing our best. But they also had their issues. They also were maybe emotionally unavailable because they were anxious or depressed, or they were alcoholics. There is a spectrum, some people were, because there's 2 types of trauma. There's what happened to you and shouldn't have happened to you. And then there's what should have happened to you and you didn't get. So when I say we're all doing our best, I'm talking about what you didn't get, you weren't attuned to. And a child needs to be attuned to and be understood, because they can't move through their emotions on their own. And so most of us experienced that type of trauma. So in that respect, I would say, they were doing their best, and it's not your fault. And now it's your responsibility, because you're walking around with programs of a helpless, dependent child, and that's not you anymore. You are an autonomous, self-validating, you validate you. You don't depend on your parents to validate you anymore. But because you weren't validated back then, which we go into like this portal in hypnosis and do all of that work so that you're not needing validation from others anymore, actually. So you get to go in and resolve that. And then the forgiveness can happen, because you've gone in and done this resolution within you and met the needs of that child. Those needs weren't met. That's why it was all still active in your body. You've resolved it. And so you can let go. And that's forgiveness, I think, when you can let go, because you no longer need them to validate or acknowledge anything, because you do that for you.
I love it. It's great stuff. I think, I was just thinking about when we're talking about pharmaceuticals and drugs, and how there's a bunch of reasons why that's the way that most people go. But it's also, I think for a lot of people, they seek reassurance and they seek calm in something that they can experience with their senses. Whether that's a drug that they can physically see, something that they can eat, something that they can drink, these things that the people believe that they have more control over. But when we're talking about like the nervous system or the hormonal system or the immune system, obviously those things are there, but if we can't physically see them, it's very, very challenging for a lot of people to kind of put themselves there. Like I have a conversation about like frequency and energy with people, and how the energy of an individual can either bring you up or bring you down, and but because they can't see what's happening, it's hard for people to really experience it. But then I talk to them about, like, do you know how like sunlight works, or like how sound works in your ears? So people can certainly get there, but my point was that it can be very challenging for a lot of people to do this inner work, because it's not something you can see like results. It's not like you're on a Peloton machine and then you can see the physical results of like how well you did against last week. Like we love that type of data because it's immediately validating, but doing this type of internal work is challenging. It's difficult, but it's quite clearly something that's there. Like a hormone is a physical thing. Just because you can't see it, or feel it doing its thing, it doesn't mean it's not there. So I think there's a lot of work we need to do in regards to like educating individuals about the power of being able to like put your energy and your frequency back inside of yourself, and recognizing that these are these traumas, these things that we have within us that may have happened 10, 20, 30 years ago. They're accessible, and we can get there, and we can choose a different direction.
Yeah. And Simon, I think the real problem is the limiting beliefs themselves that hold them back, keep them disempowered from actually transforming and stepping up. Because most people that I work with have this belief, but I'm different, it wouldn't work for me, there's something wrong with me. And so it's the limiting beliefs themselves that keeps them disempowered. I mean, we live in a disempowered society, and so it's just helping people see their innate wisdom and see that they have the power to take action. Once they've done the session, they get it. They just get it. They're like blown away. But like you say, it's intangible before you made the commitment to yourself to go and do this. But the testimonials are there, and people that do it, they'll say, I'd pay that 10 times over again to do that.
Yeah,
it's been a complete rebirth.
Absolutely. I remember I actually did a hypnosis in London when I was beginning to study nutrition. I was on a semester break. I came back to the UK, and I had to travel so far to find a hypnotist. This was probably 9 years ago, but it was very, very, and I had those cruise ship ideas in my mind, but it was just an amazing session. I sat down and this individual talked me through. We had obviously had a conversation beforehand about like who I was and what I wanted to achieve and all of these things. And that was wonderful just to actually have that time to talk about that and have that external dialogue, which I do know, but to like bring it up to the present was really, really important for me. And then being put into this really, really wonderful state. I mean, I'm not sure what is it, theta or alpha that you go into, I guess.
Yeah, and theta, now that you say it, is the brain state of children under 7. So children under 7 are actually in hypnosis. That's why they learn so quickly. They're just absorbing everything. So yeah, it's cool. 2 of our 4 or 5 brain states actually.
Yeah, so I was put into this incredible state, and then I just remember after the session, which I think was about an hour and a half, just felt amazing, just felt great, and I certainly felt like light and fluid and flexible, and that was my first experience with hypnosis. And I just wanted to ask you, why do you think we're seeing this amazing rise of practitioners such as yourself like now?
There is a huge rise, but I think that's a reflection of the awakening that's occurring in our society, and people realizing that maybe the traditional medicine is just giving them, it's attenuating symptoms, but it's not cutting it for them. Like I have a lot of women that maybe they're on SSRIs, but they don't like the side effects because, they lose their sex drive and they're just numbed out. And so that's one reason in itself to go and actually get to the subconscious root cause of it. And it's a mind, body, spirit connection, and it's actually getting into the body, resolving the stuff that has been activating your nervous system chronically, creating these diseases, not allowing you to absorb the nutrition that you need to be getting. People are waking up, and I think they're getting curious they're learning more, they're reading more, they're understanding themselves more, and they actually desire more from life. They want more. They feel that there must be more to life, and they're getting curious about these ways of doing it.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think we've had for a long time people recognize the body element of what's important to be like healthy physiologically and psychologically. So people, they bike and they run and they do all these things. And then the mind, I think that's been given a lot of attention as well in regards to like what people can do to strengthen, to educate themselves and expand that potential. But it's the spirit. I think it's the spirit thing that holds a lot of people back. And I've noticed going to church with my kids over the past, my family, I guess, over the past few months, that more and more younger families are coming into church, and I think it's for a sense of that spiritual aspect, something that's outside of them, something that's larger that we can kind of like give ourselves up to this very positive community, this very positive energy. And I think it's that spiritual piece that's been difficult for a lot of people. Again, it's something you can't like physically see. It's challenging. I can go to the gym and get bigger muscles and see that. I can do some brain training and be a little bit smarter with my memory. Like that's great, but like that spiritual aspect is very challenging for a lot of people. Have you experienced that?
Yeah, and I often say to people when I meet them initially before they invest in my program, I ask if they're spiritual, because I say, it's an element of what we do, because we're doing the inner child work. Source to a child is their parent, and their parent maybe failed them, right? But now you're anxious. You've got a choice whether to believe there's this higher power that is supporting you, that everything is coming to serve you, and work with it and co-create with it. Because this is really important for your nervous system to feel safe, because it's replacing basically that parent of the inner child. Now, as the empowered adult, there's this connection to source that is really important. And in the work, because lack of self-trust is a big thing that a lot of children lose, right? Because, parents will come along, like the cleaning the window thing, the example I gave you. Here I am, 5 years old, cleaning the windows for mom, thinking I'm doing a good job for her. And she comes in and she shouts at me because she's saying that she had them professionally cleaned yesterday. I must never trust myself again. And so we shut off from our intuition. We stop trusting ourselves. We second guess ourselves. So it's like the splintering of self. So the work is reconnection to your intuition and strengthening that connection to source. So because it gives you safety in your nervous system to have that connection. And it's a choice, isn't it? You can either believe that you're alone and disconnected, or you can believe in oneness. And, you know, you've got a choice.
Yeah. And when we have those types of experiences as children, even though they might seem minor, but you add those up, they end up, you know, becoming a very important part of us. And then you add the fact that, you know, kids go into a school system where they're sat for kind of 7-8 hours looking forward at the person in charge, and there's only one answer to all these questions, and you can't look at the back of the book because that's cheating. Even though, you know, when you get older and you would have a question and you would collaborate with other human beings to come to a result or another one that you might trial, like, yeah, it's very easy to understand how imagination, creativity, and even motivation and like luster would disappear under those circumstances. And there's so much that we can do, especially as parents, as role models, to help us facilitate these incredible human beings that we have that can teach us so much if we just like let them. And I think a lot of what we've discussed today, a lot of the work that you do allows individuals to become incredible parents. And hopefully we can have an army of practitioners coming out there teaching parents who can teach their kids to raise them to actually have this skill set as an innate part of their human physiological experience, rather than having to learn it when they're 40, when they've gone through all these crazy things. I think we're going to create a new generation of highly attuned individuals. I'm
really excited for our children's generation. I really am. Because I always say, you know, what I teach should be, you know, the mindfulness that I teach and the metacognitive psychology and the polyvagal work that I teach. This should be taught in schools. Come on, this is how we function. Like, just understanding your organism is so powerful. So I'm really excited for our children's generation. And like what you said about you know, there's only one answer. Well, that makes me even more proud that my children are at a Waldorf school, because they start from the whole and then, you know, work out how many ways you can get there to, you know, many different ways.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's beautiful. Just to kind of finish off, I know you're 9 hours ahead of me in Spain, so I'm aware you've probably got some chamomile tea there while I'm sipping my coffee. But I don't want to keep you too long. But this is just great stuff. I was just going to finish up with a question in regards to like, what can people do, kind of like right now, to take a little bit more ownership and get closer towards that freedom of the kind of trapped, contained self?
Yeah. So the first thing is realizing that you are not your thoughts. I mean, you're not even your body. You have a body. You are a spirit, and you are certainly not your thoughts. Your thoughts are popping off from your subconscious mind, 70,000 of them every day. And we are so identified by them. So just having like a little gatekeeper in your mind and just being the observer of your thoughts and being able to be objective and go, wasn't that interesting how I just spoke to myself? And realize that it's time to start speaking to yourself like you're nurturing a newborn baby. Just notice, you know, like you knock something over and you start swearing at yourself. Just start speaking to yourself like you would a little child. Be really soft and gentle, and start questioning when you're in an emotional state, what story am I telling myself here? You know, for example, I had a client whose husband, he cycled back from work, and he obviously worked past the hour that he would normally work, and then he got on his bike and he's trying to get home. But when he got home, she was raging. Her interpretation of it was that she didn't matter. She was raging because she took it. It's like, well, what story are you telling yourself? Like, there's so many different stories you can tell yourself here. But that was her childhood wound. I don't matter. And we always tell ourselves the most painful story to protect ourselves, because then I'm prepared. This is metacognitive psychology. So start telling yourself a better story and asking yourself, well, what story could I tell myself that would actually enhance my life, that would feel expansive?
Beautiful. Yeah, it sounds like it's a recommendation to step into the present moment, and there's so many amazing practices to do that. I remember when I was beginning practicing subconscious work and work with like Dr. Joe Dispenza and kind of all of his amazing stuff was doing like
Lovely.
walk. Yeah, he's amazing. His like walk meditation. So I would walk with no music or distraction, but I would actually describe the things that I was seeing to stay in the present moment rather than like allowing my mind to drift off and not be in that wonderful environment. So there's some amazing options out there for people to be able to begin this work, to start on their journey. But yeah, so I really appreciate that recommendation, Chloe. Thank you so much.
Thank you. But also, just to add to what you were saying, when you're out walking, just noticing what there is to be appreciative of, the colors in the trees, just looking to appreciate everything. And that is beautiful because, gratitude is the language of the universe. And so just being present and connected, gorgeous.
Yeah, there's a lot of beauty around us, and it can be very easy for a lot of people to kind of forget that. But we've got access to just so much beauty around us, and we can choose it. We can choose how we interpret that. Amazing, Chloe. Well, can you just let us know how people can connect with you if they want to learn more about what you do?
Absolutely. So you can always go to my website. There's loads of resources on there, loads of information about your cycle. That's www.woundsintowings or chloejimenez-peters.com or woundsintowings.com. And on there, you will find a masterclass for emotional freedom. You'll find an inner child meditation, and you can book a free 15-minute call with me if you've got any questions and you're ready to start this journey with me and jump into this 8-week program, which is absolutely transformative. And apart from that, you can find me on Instagram, which I'm sure Simon will have in the show notes, Chloe Jimenez-Peters. My surname's Spanish, so it's tricky. But Simon will have it in the show notes, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'll make it easy for everybody to be able to just click on that link and connect with you there, Chloe. But again, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been wonderful. Thanks.
Thank you.
Beautiful. That is it for this episode of True Hope Cast, the official podcast of True Hope Canada. Again, I will leave links to connect with Chloe in the description below in the show notes, so you can connect with her there. You can leave us a review on iTunes if you would like to do that. You can also give us a star review on Spotify. But that is it for this week. We'll see you soon.